So in today's episode, we're going to talk about what to do with a crappy photo. We all take them. There are times when you're playing around with different exposures, trying to find the right setting, and in the end, you have a bunch of pictures that are unusable. The ultimate goal is to pick the best pictures and work with those. But what I like to do, more to challenge myself, is to take those pictures and work with them when I'm not doing a shoot. Being here in New England, the weather isn't always perfect. It could be sunny and 80 one day and snowing the next. So there's not every day can I go out and shoot. So what I'll do is I'll go through some of the old pictures and I will try to sharpen my skills and try to make those pictures look the best as possible. So I won't say without further ado because that is the most overused phrase in YouTube. So let's get started. All right, well, here we are in Photoshop. What you see in front of you is a picture I took last weekend. And I was probably playing around with different exposures and lighting, just to try to find the right settings. And this was one of the worst pictures I took. So, like I said, what I try to do is, when I can't go out and shoot, I'm always trying to work on something. So I was working on, challenging myself to do something a little different. So I wanted to take this substandard picture and do something with it that was a little bit more interesting, and just try to work with it and make it better. And the end result, so what I did was, here is the original and here is the end result. So what I'll do is I'll go through real quick. I'm not going to recreate it, but I'm going to show you layer by layer what I did to just try to make this pop a little bit and take a picture that really wasn't anything to talk about and try to make it something a little bit more interesting. So what I did initially is I blew it up and I wanted to focus in on the front, just for a different perspective of the car, not the whole car. Just, I love the way the wheels look on this. There was a lot of highlights in here, but there was a lot of things I didn't like about this. Obviously the color, being a white car, that doesn't help either, but there was a lot of things in the picture I didn't like. Over here, the highlights in the grill, they look nice, but they were really bright. The rockers, a little dirty. I just kind of went for a ride and really didn't put a lot of effort into cleaning the car, so that didn't help. There was debris and stuff all over the ground, so I wanted to start cleaning all those up. So what I did is, step by step, is I made a copy of the layer. First thing I wanted to do was fix the rocker. Okay, so little by little, let me shut all these off. There we go. There we go. So what I did is first and foremost I made a mask with a curves layer and just tried to darken it up just a little bit. That worked pretty well. Then I had to go in with the brush a little bit, and I ended up having to add some highlights underneath, right down here, just to kind of separate. It's very subtle. And the big thing I found is making a bunch of little steps, little things at a time, and subtle things make a huge difference in the end. While you're doing them, it seems kind of redundant and kind of pointless, but when you step back and look at the entire photo, it does make a big difference. So it's a bunch of little things and not huge swings that make all the difference in the world. So I added a little bit of highlight underneath the rocker just to kind of separate the difference. So rocker off, rocker on. I can do this all day. Okay. So the next thing I wanted to do is tone the grill down a little bit. It's not much. I just brushed a little bit on. Very, very light black brush with a very low opacity, just to kind of bring it down just a little bit, only because I just thought, again, everything that you see here is all personal preference. Everybody has their own takes on what looks good. That's why we all do what we do. So after that, I wanted to touch the ground up a little bit. So there was a bunch of grass, weeds growing up through the cracks in the concrete, an old cigarette butt. So essentially what I did is I used the clone tool, a little bit of spot healing brush, just trying to clean that up a little bit. But I wanted to leave some of the character, and I also didn't want to spend all day doing this. And I think it adds a little bit more realism to it, because that's, you know, nothing is perfect for concrete asphalt. So that's what I did there. And another thing that kind of bothered me, and it's real subtle and stupid, and nobody will probably notice, but the reflection here in the center hub, I cloned that out. I just see how you can see the difference right there. It's not much, but I just wanted to. I just thought the reflection of what was showing didn't seem. I don't know, just kind of, it was distracting to me, and a lot of times my OCD kicks in, and I have to, you know, really get in on those things. So again, here is a simple. I'll try to get this off to the side here. I just made some color adjustments here. I added a curves layer here just to kind of accentuate the highlights and tone down the shadows. Another thing I thought was, again, this is creative differences and opinions and whatever. I added a light leak, and you can see essentially what I did is I just kind of Googled light leaks, and I found an image that I liked. Essentially, that's what it is. That's what, 28%. That's pretty much what it looked like. So 28, 29, and then I set the layer properties, the blend mode to screen. Just something to add a little bit of color, because that is in where the sun was coming from at the time of the shoot. Just wanted to amplify it just a little bit more. Then what I did over here is I added a camera raw filter, and I like to work non-destructively. So what I did is I made a stamp of the actual image on a, I don't know about a Mac, but on a PC, it's Shift, Control, Alt, and E, and that'll actually just take a snapshot of what you have. And then I converted it to a smart object. You can pretty much right-click up, excuse me, hit Convert to Smart Object. And what that allows me to do is, when I applied my camera raw filters, it allows me to go back and edit it. Whereas later on, if you just did it, you wouldn't be able to go back. With a smart object, I don't know, it's just, again, personal preference. I like it. It's very helpful and allows me to go back in and see what I did. And my computer is, there we go. So I clicked on my camera raw filters. I didn't really do much. I just added a little bit here, a little bit there, mainly in my detail. I added a little bit on the radius. There really wasn't a ton of things that I did, but it was just enough to add a little bit of color into it and a little bit of sharpness. See, I did, like, the shipping container behind it was more orangey, and it's not orange to begin with, but that's, again, the way the picture was taken. So I wanted to bring back the color in that, and at the same time, I added a little bit more into the shadows down below, and just made it pop a little bit more. And then I did a curve. Let's see, what is this? I did one of these to try and really just kind of work on the highlights. If you disable the layer mask, it's more, you can see it more in the tires and underneath. It's just more for to deepen the shadows just a little bit more. I was kind of going for a dark look on this. That's just, again, personal preference. I added a small gradient fill to the bottom, just to kind of add a little bit. Again, you probably can't see it. Let's see, right there, just very slightly, just to kind of add a little bit more depth and shadows into the concrete, and, excuse me, the asphalt. So then I added a dodge and a burn layer. I do these on separate layers. Again, there's 8 ways to dodge and burn. I do a separate one for each. So if you look at this one, you can see how the shadows are a little bit more in the front, and I thought it was a little too bright on the edge of the wheel right here where the tread starts to show. So I just kind of brought that down just a little bit. The dodge you probably won't be able to see on the screen at all. So I'm just going to skip that. It's very, very subtle. I did a little bit in the light just to kind of bring the light out a little bit for the marker light and a little bit in the grill. Then what I didn't like, again, was the window was a little too bright. The original picture was semi-blown out. So pretty much all I did was, using my pen tool, I cut out around the windows here and then this little section right here, and put it on a layer. I painted it in black, and then I changed it to soft light. So if you want to just see what it looks like, it's at 30%. Actually, I did it as a gradient to begin with. So here you can kind of go back and forth. I want to be able to see through the window. Some people go way too dark. And you can go with the different, I go screen. I just think it adds a little bit to it. And you still see some of the reflection. And again, it's minor, but to each his own. You know, I don't like to go too crazy. Actually, I could probably go up a little bit more. And let's see. So you can try lighten. A lot of these things aren't going to make a difference. Overlay. I'm sorry, that's where it was. So again, it's very, very subtle, but it retains the reflection, which I actually liked. A lot of people try to get rid of the reflections, and unfortunately, I shot this without a polarized lens, but that's because Amazon was a little late in getting it to me, and I haven't actually received it yet. I ordered it, and it got delayed. So once again, my very last thing, the one thing I liked this, and I just think the red was a little too red, and I could have gone back and changed it at this layer right here for the camera raw, but I made another stamp, converted it to a smart object, and I pretty much just desaturated it just enough. Again, it's subtle, but it's got some of the red. I put some red in the back where the container is, but I took some out everywhere else and made it a little bit warmer. I'm sorry, cooler. So warm and cool. I like the contrasting. I mean, that's just me. Again, all this is personal preference, but that's it. So essentially, you know, when you think about what you have, you know, I went from this to this, and it allows me the flexibility to take some really, you know, I mean, I don't know about you, but we shoot 50, 100, 250 pictures when we go out, and we use what, 5, 6, 3. So you get all those pictures, and instead of deleting them, I like to go back and try to fix the ones I have, because there's going to be a time where I'm not going to have the flexibility to get that perfect shot, and I'm going to have to work with what I ended up with. And whether because of conditions or just stupidity on my part or not setting it up right, time constraints, whatever it may be. And this allows me the flexibility to go in and, you know, just hone my skills on things. I'll watch tutorials on other channels, and I'll see something. I'll be like, oh, I never thought of that. You know, and I've been using Photoshop probably since, I think it was 1999. And maybe about 7 years ago, I started actually really getting into it a little bit more, because I think I was using like maybe 0.5%. Now I use a whole probably 5%. I don't think anybody will ever completely master 100% of Photoshop, because it is just so powerful. So I see tips and tricks, and you know, you could watch 8 videos on masking and you'll see 8 different ways to do it, and it's that way with every single thing. Shortcuts to create layers, different ways to dodge and burn, different ways to mask, different ways to create new layers. I mean, the list goes on and on. So I'll watch something and oh, that's a really good idea, or I'll see a different way or a faster way, or something that just works a little bit better than what I'm doing. Because if you stop learning and trying new things, you're just going to keep doing the same crap over and over again. And that doesn't lead to, you know, I like being creative, and I want as many creative tools at my disposal as possible. And I can get that with Photoshop. I just need to learn how to do it. So again, I recommend taking, some old pictures that you just didn't like. And if you're bored, you got nothing to do, hone your skills, work on it, practice, see what you come up with. And hopefully, you guys come up with something that you like. And if you do, make sure you share with me, post a link in the comments or whatever, or follow me on Instagram and make a comment, share your profile. I'd love to go take a look at your account, see your pics, and we take it from there. All right, hopefully you guys found that interesting enough to hit the subscribe button down below, maybe the little bell to get notified when I do more tutorials. The weather's starting to get a little colder here in New England, so the shoots will be fewer and fewer, and I'll be doing a lot more tutorials as the weather gets colder. So thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you on the other side.